Hey everyone, today we're going to crack open the user manual for your child's brain. We're talking about executive functions, that incredible set of skills that basically acts as the brain's CEO. So let's just dive right in.
So, have you ever asked yourself this? How can a kid who is just so smart, who can tell you every single fact about dinosaurs, or build these unbelievably complex worlds in Minecraft, how can that same kid consistently forget to bring home their math folder? It's a super frustrating puzzle, right? But the answer, it isn't about how smart they are, or even how motivated they are. It's all about their executive functions.
I want you to think of it like this. Executive functions are pretty much the air traffic control system for our brains. They're in charge of managing all the information coming in, going out, helping us focus, organize our thoughts, remember what someone just told us to do, and control our impulses. When that system is running smoothly, everything just works. But when it's not, well, you get chaos. Kind of like an airport with nobody up on the control tower.
Okay, so let's break this down into a few parts. We'll start with the first group, what I like to call the get-it-done skills. And as you can see, these are all about, getting from the starting line to the destination. Turning the idea of doing something into an actual completed action. It all kicks off with task initiation, which is really just a fancy term for starting. Now, what's really fascinating here is the contrast. On one side, you've got a kid who just gets going. But on the other side, you have those all too familiar signs of a struggle. The procrastination, that classic deer in the headlights freeze, or, spending 10 minutes sharpening a pencil just to avoid starting an essay. And this isn't laziness, I promise. It's a genuine executive function challenge. So how in the world do we help them get that engine started? Well, we can try something called a power start. First, you break it down. What's the absolute tiniest first step? Not write the essay, but maybe just open the Google Doc. See? Easy. Then set a timer for just 5 minutes. Anybody can do something for 5 minutes. And this last point is maybe the most important. Praise the start. Just saying, hey, I love that you got your book open, can build all the momentum they need.
Okay, next up is organization. In elementary school, this stuff is very physical, very tangible. A deficit looks like that backpack black hole, the one where homework just goes to disappear forever, or a desk so cluttered they can't even find a pencil. Success is pretty simple. It's just being prepared for the lesson with the right stuff. And would you look at how this changes over time? By high school, that messy backpack has gone digital. Now it's a totally chaotic Google Drive with untitled documents everywhere. The challenge shifts from finding a physical worksheet to trying to manage all these complex digital files and long-term deadlines. So the crucial thing here isn't just to tell them to be organized. We have to actually give them a system. This toolkit here shows some really powerful but simple tools. Things like color-coding folders for each subject, that can be a total game changer. Using checklists for daily tasks helps build a solid routine. And teaching a skill like backward planning, starting from the due date and working your way back, that's a strategy they will absolutely use for the rest of their lives.
All right, on to our second category, the stay and control skills. This one is all about managing our inner world, our big emotions, and our sometimes impulsive actions.
This is all about responding to a situation rather than just reacting to it. A student with strong emotional control can say, I'm frustrated, using their words. But a student with a deficit might have a huge meltdown over a seemingly small problem, like a broken crayon, or just completely shut down the moment they get any kind of corrective feedback. So how do we build that little bit of space, that pause between a feeling and an action? Well, we can teach this really simple routine. STOP, think, choose. It's what experts call a metacognitive strategy, which is just a fancy way of saying it's a strategy for thinking about your thinking. You literally teach them to stop, take a beat to consider their options, and then choose how to act. It's so powerful. But hey, we don't have to wait for a crisis to happen. We can build these skills proactively. We can actually model our own coping skills out loud. Something like, wow, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, so I'm going to take a deep breath. Normalizing mistakes is also huge. Just saying, oops, I made an error, let me fix it, shows them that it's okay to not be perfect. And now for our final section, which covers the mental power skills. I want you to think of these as the brain's RAM, or its short-term working memory. It's all about juggling information and being able to adapt on the fly.
Working memory is kind of like the brain's temporary sticky note. It's the information you hold in your mind while you're actually using it. A child with a working memory deficit is the one who hears a 3-step instruction, like get your folder, put your homework in it, and then put it in your backpack, and they only remember that first step. Sound familiar?
And then there's flexible thinking, which is all about the ability to adapt. It's being able to bend when plans change. A deficit here looks like rigidity. So a student might get really, really upset by a substitute teacher or a change in the daily schedule. Or maybe they get stuck on solving a math problem one way and just resist trying another strategy.
So how do we boost this mental power? We have to make the internal thinking process visible and manageable. And that means doing things like breaking big instructions into smaller chunks to support that working memory. It means using tools like graphic organizers to help them map out their thoughts visually. And it also means teaching self-talk, like having a child whisper the steps to themselves. First I'll do this, then I'll do that. This basically externalizes their thinking until it becomes an internal habit.
So after all these different skills and strategies, what are the big takeaways? Let's try to boil everything we've talked about down into 3 core principles for your toolkit. Okay, first and foremost, this is a big one. Focus on strategy, not just struggle. Telling a child with an executive function deficit to simply try harder or focus more, well, it's kind of like telling someone without glasses to just see better. They don't need more effort. They need a better strategy. Second, model these skills out loud. Executive functions are almost entirely invisible processes happening inside our heads. So by verbalizing your own planning and problem solving, like, okay, I need to go to the store. First, I'm going to make a list. Then I'll get my keys. You make those invisible skills visible and totally learnable for your child.
And finally, praise the process, not just the finished product. Really acknowledge it when you see them use a strategy. Say something like, I saw you take a deep breath when you got frustrated. That was great self-control. Or, awesome job starting your work right away. This is what reinforces the habits that truly lead to success.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What is just one small, totally manageable strategy from today's explainer that you can try tomorrow? Because look, strengthening these skills is a marathon, not a sprint. Every single small step forward builds that foundation for a more organized, focused, and resilient learner. Thanks for being here.